Hi there, I'm Timothy Linsdau, video producer, Christian. Work with kids and scouts and Kiwanis and enjoy nature and outdoors and history. And this has a little bit something to do with all of those. Did the Colombian drug lord Pablo Escobar leave behind an environmental disaster? It looks like Escobar may have done just that. He had a compound, if you will, out in the Colombian countryside, probably tens of $1 million compound. And he had whatever would make a drug lord happy, but he also had a zoo. And he had, African species and all kinds of animals. Well, when the drug lord was sent on to his reward, this zoo he had slowly just faded away. People that could get a hold of the animals and take them for their zoos or whatever they wanted to do, and they slowly emptied out the zoo. Well, there's one animal that they could not easily do that with, and that was a hippopotamus. He had a pod, if you will, of hippopotamus. Well, apparently when he was killed, the place pretty much ended, so the zoo is just left to go. So here these hippopotamus are, and getting along. They seem to have a lot of food in the area, and mostly grass, and a lot of water, and they were living fat and happy. And speaking of fat, here's one of the reasons you wouldn't probably move a hippopotamus. They weigh about 4 tons, and they're not very friendly. They're known to charge people, and you would not want to be attacked by a hippopotamus. Well, something interesting you might not know is the only place in the world hippopotamus are is in Africa. And more people are killed in Africa by hippopotamus than any other animal, twice as many than a lion. Give you an idea just how aggressive these beasts are. Well, anyway, of course, being what animals do, they reproduce. Well, the hippopotamus are doing just that. They're reproducing in the wild. And they say that there's something like 80 to 100 of them now. That's expanding. Some say in 20 or 40 years, if left untouched, there could be thousands. So there could be a whole environment in Colombia impacted by hippopotamus that were in a zoo. It's extraordinary. Researchers have been getting grants from places like National Geographic, going there and studying to see what impact are these animals going to have. Are they going to bring an environmental disaster to the area? Because there's really nothing to control them other than nature and the lack of food and disease or that sort of thing, because the Colombians have no desire to be shooting them or taking them for any reason, so they're just letting them go. But the Colombians are starting to hope, well, maybe we get something good out of that, what Escobar left behind. Maybe it'll start to improve our tourist industry. From what I understand, Colombia is a beautiful country and would be apparently a good place to go for vacations, environmental trips, if you will. And sounds like the Colombians are kind of hoping that there's something positive that comes from Escobar's legacy through these hippopotamus. Would be a lot more tourists spending money other than drugs. Apparently, Colombia has turned a corner. But what's up with these hippopotamus? I don't know how many of you know that they have a nickname, River Horse. They have a tendency to look a little bit like a horse in their head, but the rest of it doesn't. But like the way they get around on land, they only eat on land. They get out of the water and they graze. And that's one of the concerns, is are they going to overgraze grasslands? Well, then they spend the rest of their time in water. They don't really swim. They walk or run on the bottom of whatever water they're in, small rivers, lakes, shallow lakes, that type of thing. And but they're not something you can really go out and herd around, because they have very short fuses. They're very aggressive. Not something you want to play with. So, if you had thousands of them, it could be a real problem. Now that they've been introduced to this environment, apparently there's no history of a hippopotamus being in the New World, if you will, anywhere. And so that would be something new on the environment to deal with. Would that cause problems? We've never had them here. The river hippo, this is a certain class of hippopotamus, apparently, as I mentioned, is responsible for more deaths in Africa than any other animal. The size of these things, well, they can be up to 16 feet in length. They can be 5 feet tall and weigh 4 tons. The beast can run 25 miles an hour. You imagine 4 tons lumbering along. And they are violent characters. Yes, as many as 500 people a year are killed in Africa from these beasts. They're nocturnal by nature. Colombian hippos eat a lot of grass, as I mentioned. They only eat on land. Now, here's one thing that happens, and it affects the environment. They get on land, eat a mountain of grass, must be a huge amount, back in the water. But then they spend all day in the water, and there's no easy way to say this, but they defecate all day long from all that grass. Well, all those hippos in the water defecating is going to have an effect on the environment of that water. And one of them is algae blooms. Well, if you may know something about history of algae, when it blooms, it starts using up the oxygen in the water, which can have an effect on all the life that's depending on that, such different types of fish and aquatic animals. So that can be a problem. If hippopods continue to grow at a current pace, there's also a danger of the depletion of the grasslands. No strategy to keep this population in check by the Colombians. And as I mentioned, they're opposed to culling the herds. And people seem to kind of like them, like the idea that they're there. So researchers have no clear consensus on whether the invasion will cause harm of any kind in Colombia. Well, who knows? The effects on aquatic life is in question, some of these researchers have written. They suggest that sustained population growth poses a threat to water quality in lakes and rivers as their population expands. Some biologists speculate that nutrients from the hippo's digestive system may help some species flourish. Well, that's possible. We can always hope for the best. Among the casualties was the tourist industry in Colombia suffered greatly during the cocaine wars, if you will, from people like Escobar running their drug empires. So apparently people knew all this. Like I said, officials were killed off, assassinated. Nobody wanted to be there. And so it killed their tourist industry. But now things are probably back to some normalcy, so they're hoping to reinvigorate their tourist industry. And maybe these hippopotamus will help them. I don't know. But they say Colombia is beautiful, a place to see. And we see that the drug lord left another legacy of could be destruction, we don't know. Fortunately, his drug part has been done away with. But what the hippopotamus will do, I don't know. We'll see. So anyway, Pablo Escobar leaves behind an environmental question. You know, what will these hippopotamus do? So, like and comment my videos, subscribe to my channel if you would. That'd be terrific. You know, get out there and just make it a great day, would you?